Hi, this is Joe Rabil with Rabil Stock Research. I'm going to do your daily 5 for today. So I looked at thousands of charts this week, large cap and small cap, and I think there's still a lot of attractive patterns out there with good momentum characteristics. Overall, I think the conditions are pretty good to me right now. And when it came down to picking the 5 charts that I wanted to talk about today, they all fell in the market cap between 1 and 10 billion. And so, I didn't do that on purpose. It just happened that way. I don't know. I think the market might be telling us something, although I will say that I think there's pretty attractive patterns across the board, across all different types of market caps right now. You still have to look for entry. It's not like you can just buy anything at any price, but I think there's enough opportunity out there if you're paying attention. So let's start with the first stock here, and that's VAC, Marriott Vacations Worldwide. It's hard to believe this chart looks this good after, and during a pandemic. Obviously, we've seen a lot of recovery in a lot of stocks like this. And so I find it really interesting. If you look at the monthly, I've talked about this several times in past videos where we've got kind of this W shape now in a lot of these stocks, but I really like the fact that the MACD has sort of made somewhat of a double bottom and then is now lifting off the zero line and showing some pretty good signs of strength here, especially with pretty strong support right around 125. That was the prior resistance zone. And then if we look at the weekly chart, we really start to see where the momentum is starting to kick in. Both MACD hitting a new high and showing some pretty good strength. But look at how strong the 80X line, this blue line, has gotten based on the buying strength. And, you had the big gap up and you've really just been walking it out, working sideways, holding the 125 breakout zone. So I'm very attracted to that kind of pattern. We have these two time frames together sort of telling us that the bigger picture looks pretty good. And then on a shorter term time frame, or weekly, I should say, we've got some pretty decent momentum characteristics going. Let's go on to the next chart. And this is Jeffries Financial. So I did the review of the financials. Obviously, I'm not sure if any of you saw that right near the end of the year. And what I mentioned there, and there were a lot of stocks that had this look where there was some strength coming through resistance from the prior year, and we had a lot of improvement taking place in this sector. And so I wanted to make sure I highlighted this because now we're starting to get these pullbacks to the breakout area, which is what I had mentioned in that video. We'd get the sort of some hesitation in some stocks at the prior high, but then looking for the ones that sort of broke to new highs and then pull back to the breakout area like we're seeing on this weekly chart. Now, if we look at the monthly, you can see there's still a little bit of resistance that this is trying to work through. And ordinarily, I'd rather see this pullback be taking place above these prior peaks here. But the reality is, again, we have a good look to the MACD, both lines crossing back above the zero line on the monthly. But more importantly, we're seeing pretty significant new momentum coming into this stock based on the buyers. That's the green line. And that kind of strength, I think, has a very good chance of taking us through the resistance that we're seeing on the monthly chart. So also like the action in the sector. So I just wanted to make sure I highlighted one there. Let's go on to the next chart. So this is Pointe Homes. And so if we look at a monthly first, I always start with the monthly chart to look at the bigger picture and see what's really happening. Because what I'm trying to identify are stocks that have some really legitimate upside potential. I mean, you could trade stocks that have good looking monthly and weekly if you want. But I'm trying to identify, most of my clients are longer term, trying to identify stocks that have the potential over, say, the next 6 months or maybe even longer than that. And so, I'm looking at conditions taking place on the monthly first. And I really like the fact that this is just starting to emerge out of this consolidation pattern. It's really been a long kind of reversal And taking out the high from 2018, I think, is a really good sign. If we go again and look at the weekly chart, we're starting to get some decent signs. A few weeks ago on the breakout bar, you can see you had a big green bar to take to new highs there. And that breakout bar, I think, is very bullish. And we're starting to see, now the ADX hasn't crossed above 25, but I think we're starting to see signs of buyers showing up with the green crossing above 25. Some pretty good conditions, and I definitely thought it was worth mentioning. The group action here has been pretty good as well. Let's go on to the next chart. And now I'm going to switch to a weekly and a daily. I've been showing you a monthly and a weekly side by side. Now I've got a weekly on the left and a daily on the right. And this CIIC, this is one of these SPACs. This is a very popular type of investment right now. But, you know, more important to me is just the dynamics of what's taken place. So if we look at the longer term time frame first, you see the real powerful move to the upside. And, you know, you had and you still do have very strong momentum characteristics associated with it. And you can see the price dynamics. We hit some resistance and you see a few tails where some resistance came in. But the pullback overall has been pretty orderly for what I would consider to be a pretty volatile stock. And then if we go to the daily chart, so again, I wrote a book called Invest Like a Pro, and one of the patterns, really the feature pattern that I look for is using two time frames like this. On the higher time frame, we're looking for a powerful up move to the upside and then a pullback. And on the pullback, we want to see low ADX, which is what's taken place, and we've gotten to a pretty low level. And in this case, we actually even have MACD that had been very overbought at the peak, working its way back down to the zero line. And in addition to that, the 18, which was well above the 40, has now worked its way back down and even underneath the 40, telling me that this has basically worked off the overbought condition. And so what I'd probably want to do, I want to see some sign of strength, probably up through 30. If I drew a downtrend line, I think 30 is really the number that'll probably get the MACD lines turning back to the upside, and we'll probably start to see some positive DI taking place as well. So this is one I definitely would be watching on a move up through 30. Now, this is a very, very volatile stock. I would probably cut down my position size that I would normally use just to be sure, because it's going to jump around on you. But I do like the characteristics taking place here. Let's go to the last chart of the day. And I want you to mostly focus on this left chart, the weekly. And so this is Dropbox, and it really hasn't done anything. I mean, the stock has been, you know, you could definitely call it an underperformer. And so I've been watching this for a while because I like how, since it dropped down late in 2019, it's really just been working sideways. And it got to the point, especially recently, where the ADX dropped down. If we look at this ADX, both green and red DI and the ADX were low for a very long period of time. I mean, that was several, I would say, you know, 3, 4, maybe even 6 months worth, where all of these lines were very low and really just moving sideways. And so now we're starting to see, you know, strength in the green, which is the buyers, and it's having a result on the blue line, which is the ADX line, and it's now crossing above 25. Now, we haven't seen a true breakout, in my opinion. We did get above this prior peak here, but it really wasn't much follow through. But I really like how this is coiling, and I think another up move through 25 probably kicks this into gear. If we go to the daily chart, we had a pretty strong move to the upside, and then we do have low ADX on the lower time frame, and we have this MACD turning at the zero line taking place on the daily chart. So just both time frames sort of giving off some signs that there's some attractive qualities taking place. So I want to keep an eye on this, especially on the weekly. Again, I think if something meaningful is going to take place, we're going to cross 25, probably with price and volume expansion. I hope you enjoyed this segment. You can find my research on rabilstockresearch.com, or feel free to contact me through LinkedIn or email. I do have a YouTube channel for educational purposes to show people how to trade in multiple time frames. Have a great trading day, and I will see you next time.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.